Hello, and welcome back to another special episode of Toxic Bliss. I'm just on a roll today. I got a lot to say. Um, the previous episode was about going no contact, and that's a big deal. So I hope you had to listen to that, and I hope it helped you. One thing that I want to talk about is the devaluing process. All right, in any narcissistic relationship, one of the hallmarks is something called devaluing. Right, the narcissist will try every trick in the book to keep you off balance. All right, and to keep you feeling low and to keep you feeling down. And the best way to describe this is a quote that I have from my dearest, bestest friend in the whole world, Jess Nelson. She said, "They'll cut you off at the knees to bring you down to their level." And man, there's no more truer word spoken than that. So let's talk about devaluing, what it looks like, what it is, what it feels like, how to recognize it, and how to stop it right in its tracks, which brings us back to the earlier video of going no contact. All right, so the best way that I have to help other people dealing with relationships like this of varying degrees of toxicity is by sharing my own stories. Now, it's not always the easiest thing to do because I don't like to sit here and tell you how stupid I was. But, if it helps you, it's worth it to me. So I'm going to tell you a story about a relationship that I've had for about 13 years. And it's only been the last 4 or 5 days where I've come to see it for what it actually is. And I've taken the steps to get out of it, and I've gone no contact. And here we go. So let me just arrange everything and get comfortable. This is one of those stories. Many of you know that I play World of Warcraft, and I've played it since 2007. And back in 2007, when I first started, I knew nothing about the game. I didn't know how to play it. I didn't know what it was. It was just cool and fun. So I struggled my way through it all by myself because even though it was an MMO, there's a lot of other players in the game. I didn't know anybody. And, I didn't like people in that game. The toxicity of the community in that game it rivals 4chan. It's horrifying. So I kept to myself a lot. At one point, though, I met some people, and they said, "Hey, come do a dungeon with us." I was like, "What's that?" Right? So I went, and we, started playing together, and they were teaching me the finer points of the game and how to play my character and stuff, and it was a lot of fun. And through them, I met this person. Let's call him Bob. I met Bob. And Bob was a very well-known person in the guild that we had joined, and he's up in the upper echelons of the officers and kind of thing. And Bob decided that he would teach me everything I needed to know about WoW personally. I'm like, all right. And we started playing together, and it was fun in a sense because at that point I definitely had an air of the damsel in distress. Right, because I knew nothing. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to play. And he would always rush in and save me. "Oh, I have to do this quest. I can't kill this thing. Oh, woe is me." And he'd come right out and just whack it in the face and it would die. I'm like, "Ooh, you're so strong, huh?" Yeah. Anyway, so I fell for that. Eventually, I saw his picture and he was extraordinarily attractive. Like, wow, kind of attractive. And I fell for it. Absolutely. Hook, line, and sinker. And we had a lot of fun at first. A lot of fun because he liked having somebody that needed him because I needed his help all the time. He liked having somebody he could teach because it made him feel like the smart, guru type. And it worked. It was kind of a symbiotic relationship. I needed help. He needed somebody to need him. It was good. It was good for a while. But it wasn't long, maybe like a year, before I really started to get this game. I started to understand it, and I started to get pretty good at it. Whether I was playing the tanking role or DPS role or whatever, I was pretty darn good at that point. And so when our guild had disbanded, I went to find another guild, and I found a very highly rated guild, and they accepted me as part of their raid team because I was good. Okay, right? So, but I wanted Bob to come with me because I wanted to play with Bob. Bob didn't get accepted because he wasn't that good. And then I felt really bad. So I found another guild that would take us both. because I didn't want to play without Bob. So, all right, and things went well. But over the course of a few years, it became obvious that I was considerably better at the game than Bob was. Now, that's not something that I would ever lord over him or would make fun of him for, um, because I never wanted to hurt anybody's feelings, certainly not Bob's. I cared for him very much at that point. So it was a constant state of almost self-devaluing, right? I would always play down my own abilities. I would always mess something up here and there, or make sure I wasn't doing as much DPS or the numbers that, well, it's too long to explain, but I would make sure that I was underperforming him purposefully so he would feel good, right? Like losing a game on purpose, right? We've all done that sometimes. But there were times when he would just irritate me, because one of the other aspects of devaluing is taking. Okay. So first, I would devalue myself by not performing as well as I could to make him feel good. But then there's a thing in the game where you need to farm tons and tons of materials to make things, right? You need to spend hours and hours and hours wandering around the world in the game, collecting herbs and ores and all of this stuff to make the things that you need to go to raid. And he would work all day. And since I was home, I'd be like, hey, I'll go do all that for you. No problem. Because that's what you do for people you care about, right? So that brought me an amount of joy because I like giving. And so every time he needed a flask or a food or whatever, I would go get it for him, right? And I could spend hours and days getting these things for him. And it became expected, right? There weren't thank yous and, oh, can I pay you for that? Can I help you do, whatever. It was like, oh, you got any flasks for me? Like, yeah, here you go. And it was expected. There wasn't a thank you or anything. It was just, that's what I do. I give him stuff. Right. So I spent a long time doing that. All the while, there was a constant air between us of him teaching me stuff. And I'm like, dude, you don't got to teach me anything anymore. I'm better than you are. And at one point, he had gone on vacation. And because I cared so much about him, I offered to log into his character and do all of his dailies for him. Because at that point, you had to log in every day, do a whole bunch of quests, or you'd fall behind. And if he was going to be gone for a week or two, he would fall pretty far behind. And I didn't want that to happen. So, being the wonderful, nice person that I am, I would log in and do these for him. Okay? So not only mine, but do his as well. And at one point, he wanted me to do the weekly raid, which is a big, tough fight that you have to do. And I'm like, I don't know how to play your character because it's a different kind of class than I play. He's like, oh, just go. It doesn't matter. You'll figure it out. So I'm like, okay. Right. So I was in voice chat with one of his friends who knew how to play that class. And he's kind of talking me through it as I'm, we're fighting this giant boss in this raid group of 25, 30 people. And I'm trying to figure out how to play this character. Right. And I've got the spell book open. And I'm clicking buttons and I don't know what to do. And somebody's in voice chat talking me through how to play it. And by the end of it, when I looked at the DPS meter, I was like second on the list. And I'm like, how on earth did I pull that off? And I showed it to his friend who just laughed. He's like, you do more DPS on Bob's character than he does. You don't even play with a spell book open. My God. And I thought that was hilarious. I really did. And I've never forgotten that moment because I was like, yeah, I've arrived. I have arrived. So I thought it was funny. Of course, his friend had to rib him about it a bit because, that's what guys do. But I don't think he ever forgot that. Mm-mm. So when the table started to turn, where it was clear who was the superior player, there wasn't as much interest in me all of a sudden. Right. So what he would try to do, because we had such a pattern of playing together, would be to constantly devalue my successes. Right. If we would be off playing something and I'd get a big achievement for something and I'd link it to him, like, look, I got this achievement. And be like, oh, nice. But if he got that same achievement later on, he would message me and link it. And I was supposed to be, throwing a party or something. He expected, wow, that's so great. You're so fantastic. Awesome. Ah. Right. And then I'd get another achievement. And he'd be like, eh. But if he would get it, it was supposed to be, champagne and fireworks. Right. And I noticed this early on in our relationship. I'm like, that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird how you just saw me get an achievement because it would come up in our guild chat and you wouldn't say a word, but you get it. And then you message me privately to make sure that I know you got it and to say congratulations. It's like, all right, whatever. And this happened in hundreds of different ways. Like if I'd get a good piece of gear that dropped for me and I'd link it and I'd be excited about it, he'd be like, oh, but if he got one and he would link it and if I wasn't just effervescing all over the place about his awesomeness, he would get angry with me. All right, you're an insecure child. I get it. Well, because I cared so much about him, I would just play the game and be like, wow, you're so cool. I'm so proud of you. Good job. Right, and go about my business. And so we had that sort of relationship in game for it. That's just what it was. I was the little damsel in distress who couldn't think for herself and didn't know how to play, and that made him happy because then he felt like the big, strong guru who'd have to rush in and save the day. And as long as I maintained that status quo, everything was fine. Everything was fine. But when I got bored of that, as you eventually do, things would change. And I'd be like, I'm not doing that. Just leave me alone. And there were some moments of contention, where he wouldn't understand where I was coming from, and he would get frustrated with me. And of course, it was always my fault. That's another thing that you have to understand. In these toxic relationships, everything will always be your fault, no matter what. So things like, me playing his characters for him while he's on vacation or getting him everything he ever needed and wanted in game, always making sure he had a spot in any raid team I was on, anything I had to do, I would do it for him. Right. And I would never get a thank you for it because it was expected, because I had set that up by letting it be. See, boundaries. I did not have good boundaries. So that I would take blame for that because I should have set better boundaries. But there were things that would happen like there was a mount that I was farming, gorgeous mount that I wanted for so long. And I would run this dungeon or this raid every week for years trying to get this mount. And it finally drops. And he came with me to help. And he got the mount. Did he give it to me? No. And I'm like, all right, jerk. Fine, take my mount. But eventually I'd get it myself and be like, so there. But he would always use that mount in front of me, knowing how irritated that would make me. And he would think that was funny. Okay, this is one thing they do. They keep you off balance by doing things that they know will upset you, and they find it hilarious. Okay, so every time he used that mount in front of me, it would remind me of that night when it finally dropped after all those years, and he took it. And he would be like, haha, I have it, you don't, nah, 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 nah. But like, we are not in grammar school, pal. And I would just roll my eyes and blow it off because he's just a jerk. That's him. And I never really, stood up for myself and say, you know what? You're an asshole. Go away. I didn't, because I was like, well, that's just him. He doesn't have a good social skills, or he has a lot of issues from his childhood, or, I'd always make an excuse or a rationalization for that sort of behavior. And, it never ended. I mean, just very recently, we were playing a couple of weeks ago. There were a bunch of mounts that I wanted to buy before the new expansion dropped so I could get my totals up, but I didn't have enough gold because they were very expensive. But he's sitting on 3 or 4 million gold. So I said, oh, hey, give me 150K so I can get these 2 mounts. Thinking that's no big deal. Certainly everything that I've ever done for him in the course of the game, 150K is nothing. And he said, no. All right. I'll remember that. And I will never forget that, because that made me very angry. But that's what they do. They want you to need them. He enjoyed the fact that I would be begging him for this 150K gold so I could get these mounts. He loved that. That's funny. The fact that he had the power to say no to me was funny. The fact that it upset me that he said no was funny to him. Okay. That's a really, really big red flag. When they can do something that is hurtful to you and they find it funny, girl, you've been devalued to, you might as well throw your pennies away because you're not even worth that. Okay, so be wary of the little devaluing things and how they add up over time. Right now, I didn't even put all this together. For all of my narcissism studies and all this stuff, I never put this together until like the last 24 hours. Okay. I knew I was always irritated with him. I knew it always hurt my feelings. I knew all of this stuff, but I never pinpointed it as, oh, we've seen this toxic behavior before. This is what it is. Right. So I'm in the throes right now of realizing that and thinking, yeah, devaluing is a big problem. So let's talk about it. So that's why I'm doing this right now. But I have a few more examples for you. Let me get a drink first. I'm really thirsty. All right, there we go. Here's an example that is devaluing to the point where I was even shocked. Right now, I've been through stuff with a malignant narc. I don't think this guy Bob is a malignant narcissist. He certainly exhibits some tendencies, though. But it shocked me, and I'm like, there just aren't a lot of words to this. Let me tell you the story, and you tell me what you think in the comments below. In World of Warcraft, there are things called guilds, which are groups of people that play together. Now, he is in a guild with a bunch of people that I happen to know. Some of them are friends, some are not. And I'm in a different guild with a bunch of people that are actually very cool and adult and nice. Yeah. The reason that I'm not in the guild with him, even though I know most of the people in there and I've played with them for years, is that they have some extremely toxic players in that guild. When you would go to raid, they would make jokes that, I don't know, I don't find it funny. Okay, let's just say they're very childish teenage boy locker room humor type stuff. I don't find that amusing, and I didn't want to be around people like that, so I left the guild. I didn't make a big scene about it. I didn't yell and scream and fuss and call anybody names. I just left. Went my own way, right? That's the adult thing to do. But because of that, there are some people there that don't like me very much. And you know what? I'm good with that. Because if that's the type of person that you are, I don't want you to like me. I don't want you to even think about me because I'm certainly not thinking about you. But apparently, there are some people still in the guild that if my name comes up, they get all grumpy. Whatever. It's not a big deal. All right. So, but to him, apparently, this is a thing. Now, the other night, I was playing with Bob. And Bob had to do some content in the game that was a little challenging for him to do by himself. I had already done it by myself, but he needed some help to get through it. So I spent 10 hours running through what I think is some of the most boring, mind-numbing content the game has ever produced to get him what he needed. Right, because he needed these things if he was going to go to raid. So I'm helping him only for his benefit. I'm not getting a darn thing out of it, and I've already done it myself, so now I have to do it again. It's like, ugh. So we get through about maybe 6 hours of it or so, and he says, oh, hey, do you mind if we bring some more people? I'm like, whatever, except this one person. We'll call him Pete. Pete is in the guild with Bob, and I do not like Pete. Pete is not a nice person at all. So I said, I will not spend my time in World of Warcraft with that person. So don't invite them. He says, okay. So he finds somebody else who comes into our group when we run all the content. And so now I'm carrying 2 people who are undergeared and underperforming for this content. So I have to do a lot of work to make sure we get through it. And at the end of it, the person that he invited was Pete's wife. And I'm like, for the love of God, whatever. But I was very nice, very polite, because that's what you do. You be polite to people, right? So we finally finished, and I'm like, whew, I do not want to do that again. And he goes, okay, well, I got everything I need, so thanks, bye. I'm going to go play with the guild for a while. And I'm like, bye. I was going to go take a bath anyway. I don't care. Just go. So he leaves, and I log out of the game because I'm going to go do other stuff. And I get a message from one of my actual friends who's also in that guild telling me, hey, they're all sitting in Discord voice chat right now, and Pete is slagging you off pretty hard, and Bob's in here just sitting laughing at him. I'm like, really? I spend 10 hours of my day helping Bob get all the stuff he needs, doing stuff I didn't need to do or want to do. And he's going to sit in there and let Pete say nasty lying things about me and not even stand up for me. He's like, no, he's just laughing. And I'm like, huh. All right. Whatever. He's a jerk, right? So I called him out on it, of course. Like, you could at least stand up for me or tell Pete to bug off or something. And he's like, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. I just can't do that. And I'm like, why? If I was sitting in a Discord chat and somebody came in and saying bad things about one of my friends, I would say something. I'd be like, hey, knock it off. We don't do that here. Whatever. Express my displeasure in some form, or, that's what you do for your friends, right? But apparently not with Bob. And so I got a little angry about that. And I'm like, yeah, dude, next time you need 10 hours of hand holding through this game that you think you're so good at, you call them. Leave me out of it. So I was a little angry. I'm like, that's not right. So I went and I took my bath, and I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, that's really not right. And of course, the whole time we were doing that 10-hour run through this tower, he's telling me how to play my character. You should really use this skill, and you should use that skill, and you should pull from over here, and you should do this, and you should do that, and da 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 da. Meanwhile, we keep dying all over the place because he's not performing his tank role properly, and I'm just like, dude, can you stop trying to tell me how to play this game? Please just stop. So it was, 10 hours of being devalued on the run on top of that. So at this point, I'm just like, I have had it with this guy. I've just had it. So what do you do when you get to that point where you've had it with a toxic person and you're done? You walk away, right? So that's what I did. I removed him from my Discord servers and all this other stuff and said, I'm just done. Just go do your thing. I've got other things to do. So, and I was hoping, all right, that's it. It's over. But no, it's never that simple, is it? It's never that simple. Mr. Bob got quite angry with me and decided that we were going to have this out right now. And I'm like, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. But no, that was another power thing for him, keeping me up past my bedtime to deal with him and his drama. And I'm like, all right, well, let's, we're just typing back and forth texting. He was like, you need to go call me in Discord right now. I'm like, no, it's 1:30 in the morning. My kids are asleep. My husband's trying to go to bed. I'm not talking to you about wow crap in the middle of the night, waking everybody up, for the love of God. And he demanded that I call him immediately. So I'm like, all right, fine. I'll go sit in my car. Right? I like my car. I love my car. I have a good relationship with my car. My car is not a narcissist. So I had to get dressed, right? Because it's cold out. Even though it's Texas, it's still cold and it's the middle of the night. I can't find my sneakers. I haven't gone out of the house since like March. I have no idea where my shoes are. No idea at all. It could be anywhere. So what do I have to put on my feet? I have my unicorn slippers. Yeah, so there I am getting dressed in sweatpants, my big fuzzy sweatshirt, my unicorn slippers. I grab my soda, my phone, and I head out to the car so I can go sit in the car and talk to this guy and deal with his crap. But when I get down to the car, I realized I didn't bring a car key. And I'm like, I have to go all the way back up the stairs to get the car key. And if you followed my Mindful and Think content, you know what those stairs do to me. God, they're a nightmare. So I call my husband. Like, you throw me down a car key. So he gets me a car key. So I get in the car. All right, fine. Now I'm in the car, got my soda, got my phone, and I load up Discord. Wi-Fi doesn't reach to the car. What was I thinking? Of course the Wi-Fi doesn't reach all the way down to the car. I'm like, oh, man, So I managed to get a connection just long enough to message him and be like, Wi-Fi is not working. Call me. And I gave him my cell phone number in case he didn't have it, which I don't think he does, but he does now. And he said he wasn't going to call me long distance on his cell phone because no. And I better hurry up and fix this or I'm going to lose my chance to talk to him and he's going to bed. And I'm like, if that wasn't textbook narcissist, I don't know what is. Because first, here he is demanding that I call him, right? knowing that I have to go through this whole process to find somewhere to call him, so I'm not waking up the whole house at his demand. But then refusing to call me because it's long distance. Like, I'll call you. I don't care. It's just a phone call. And then on top of it, telling me to hurry up or I'm going to lose my chance. I'm like, buddy, who do you think you are? Right now, right at that, long before that point, I should have been like, bye. But no, I was invested at that point. I'm like, now I'm pissed. Now I'm pissed off. So you damn well bet I'm going to call you as soon as I figure this out. So I get my soda, get my thing, lock up the car, go all the way back up these damn stairs that kick my butt every time. Get outside my door, and I have a bench on the patio and stuff. So I sit out there and I'm like, all right, now my Wi-Fi will work and I will call you. I have a low data plan, so I don't want to use Discord. I want the data because I would run that up real quick. So I get Discord working and I finally call him. And he is about as intoxicated as a person can be and still be conscious. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. This is just going to be great, right? And then he starts telling me about this thing with Pete. Right? He's all convinced that I'm not talking to him anymore because he wouldn't stick up for me to Pete. I'm like, no, that's like a little tiny symptom of a much, much larger problem. It's really not here nor there, Well, you don't understand. I'm like, what don't I understand? He's like, there are a lot of people that don't like you. I'm like, okay. What does that have to do with anything? He's like, well, there are a lot of people in this guild that don't like you. I'm like, yeah, you just said that. He's like, you need to understand that some people don't like you. I'm like, you are really getting off on saying that. That was a pretty monstrous red flag, right? He was enjoying making sure that I knew some people in that guild didn't like me. But I knew that already. That's why I left the guild, because there are some really nasty people in it, and I don't like them either. I don't care if they like me or not, But he seemed to think that this was a great thing to do to me. All right, now this is devaluing in a really big, obvious way. He must have said that about 10, 15 times. He kept saying, there are a lot of people here that don't like you. You do know that, right? Right? Answer me. That's a yes or no question. You know that people don't like you, right? Right? People don't like you. There are some people that don't like you. And I'm like, man, there's a problem here. Joke's on him. They don't really like him either, but whatever. I won't tell him that. But I'm just like, wow, what is your point, man? And he said, well, I have to play this game, but I have to play the politics to get anywhere in this game. And basically, if he talked or stood up for me to these people that don't like me, then he would lose his standing in that social group. And I'm like, so? He's like, well, he needs his standing in that social group so that he can get anywhere in the game. And I'm like, all right, let me break this down. What you're saying to me is that you won't stick up for me to these other people that you play with because they can help you advance in the game. And that's more important to you than me or my feelings. I didn't say that. Like, yeah, you did. That's what that means. He's like, no, it doesn't. Like, what does it mean? It means that, I need them because if I want to go to raid and all this other stuff, then, I got to be nice to them and make friends with them and stuff. And it's just politics. I'm like, right. So having them take you through raids and dungeons and things is more important than sticking up for me. No, I didn't say that. I'm like, logic is not a strong point in Bob's world. So yeah, it was a pretty big realization. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what that means. You want to have me around to do things for you that these other yahoos won't, provide you with everything that you need, give you all kinds of attention and stuff, but that's not important enough to you to stand up for me when someone's being nasty. I'm like, okay, all right, that's good. At least I know where I stand now, right? So I'm like, okay, whatever, bye. Right. So we had kind of a big argument. I did drop a couple F-bombs and say bugger off and hung up on him, and that was it. Right, it was done. But a couple hours later, after I think after he realized I wasn't talking to him, he's like, oh shit, where'd she go? He messages me and says, well, there's no point in playing WoW without you, so I've canceled my sub. And I'm thinking, this is a problem. My camera lights are going funny. I'm sorry about that. That's a little bit better. I'm thinking, you can't play World of Warcraft without me, so you're going to cancel your sub when you just told me an hour ago that you can't even stick up for me to these other people because they're so important to you getting ahead in the game. Which is it? The two, you cannot maintain those two truths at the same time. That's an oxymoron. Okay? It doesn't work. Either you only play, and he kept reiterating that point. I only play WoW to hang out with you. I only play WoW because of you. I'm like, well, then you should have stood up to those people without a second thought, right? And if you only play WoW because of me, why don't you come to the guild that I'm in? Why don't you come raid with me? Why are you still with them? You know, I've never asked him to do that because, frankly, I don't care. But you can't turn around and try to manipulate me and make me feel guilty and sad or whatever it was he was doing by telling me he had to cancel his sub and he's not playing WoW anymore because he doesn't want to play without me, and yet have the other truth be true as well. So I'm just like, narcissist 101. Manipulation, making it my fault, trying to make me feel bad. And I'm just like, oh, I have seen this show so many times before. I'm so done with it. And it got to the point where I'm almost laughing about it. I'm almost laughing because it's so obvious that it's comical. It is comical to me, you know? And so, well, I'm trying to explain to him that this is an oxymoron and you cannot have these two competing truths as evident at the same time. Of course, he's also, again, completely intoxicated and does not understand anything that's going on. And I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I got some stuff to do. But no, we had to have another fight. He had to talk to me. So we're talking and talking. And I got so frustrated. I just hung up on him again because I'm just not dealing with it. I can't get through to him. He's too drunk. He doesn't understand. And even so, it's very clear to me at this point what's happening here, you know, and there's no coming back from that. So what does he do? He calls me long distance on his cell phone, on my cell phone. And I'm like, so the other night when it's like 40 degrees outside and I'm hiking all the way down to my car, you can't call me then, you know, because that was about controlling me to get me to call you. But now that I've hung up on you and walked away, now you're going to call me? Right. Mm-hmm. All right, Buster. Yeah, but we only talked for about half an hour before he decided, oh, we should just go back to Discord because this is costing me too much money. Oh, man, just for the love of God. So all this has been going on, right? It's been very dramatic. It's been very upsetting because I spent 13 years, you know, talking to this guy every day of my life. I do have feelings for him, not, you know, and you know what I mean. And it was hard. It's very hard to walk away from somebody like that you care about and you have cared about for a very long time. And at one point we were very, very close. You know, I was close with his sister and some of his real life friends, and our lives just kind of meshed to a point. And it's hard to walk away from that, to just be like, no, 13 years of history, but I'm done. And so I spent a good day crying. I spent a day yelling, working through, you know, doing all the 10 steps in the previous video about how to handle going no contact. But yet I still hadn't actually gone no contact. I was kind of psyching up for it. And it's hard, you know, it was hurtful. So we had this talk on the phone and then on Discord because it was too expensive for him. And all I can think is, I need to get away from this. I need to get away because it just hurts. And there's no way you're ever going to explain anything. You can't. All right. So people like me who like to be fixers and we're always trying to help and make things better, don't. You are just wasting your time and your energy and your breath and your emotions and your heart. Don't do it. They're never going to listen. They're never going to understand. They're not going to change. You cannot fix them. They may fix themselves at some point in their lives for whatever, but you are not going to do it. All right. So spare yourself. I know how hard that is. Believe me, I have cried 1,000 oceans over this man. And there's nothing I can do about it. I get how hard it is. I know how much you want to try. Okay. But don't. Just don't. And it's hard. So I keep saying that, but it really is. So I was thinking about this and I was talking to, thankfully, I have some friends who are very well versed in narcissism and toxic relationships. And I've been spending a lot of time with them, mostly whining and crying and fussing, stomping my feet, that kind of thing. But it was such a good conversation to have with them because they know exactly what I'm thinking and feeling. They know exactly what's up my sleeve and what tricks I'm going to try and still fix things. And like, nah, come on. Right. So they keep me very well grounded. And one of the things I realized when it comes to devaluing, there's a reason that the narcissist will devalue you, or not even the narcissist, even just the toxic person, because not all toxic people are narcissists. I'm not saying that. Most of them are, or a lot of them, but not all of them. And in this case, I don't think he's a narcissist, but he's very toxic. And for 13 years, there has been devaluing in every conversation we've ever had. All right. Now, you all know I'm an astrophysicist. That's what I do. That's my passion in life. That is my real thing. And believe me, I've thought about having an astrophysicist YouTube channel. That'd be fun. But when I was telling him, when I had started going to school for physics many, many moons ago, and I told him about it, he's like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because it's fascinating. He's like, if you want to learn about physics, all you need to know is to go play a game of pool and watch how the pool balls move around. I'm like, what? It's like, that's all you ever need to know about physics. Anything else is just waste because it's not important. I'm like, yeah. Okay. So I don't talk to him about it because, first of all, he doesn't understand anything that I'm studying. And when I do talk to him about it, he just puts it down and calls me silly for studying it. And it's dumb. And if I really wanted to know physics, I would just go play pool. All right, dude, whatever. And that always irritated me. It's like, why can't you be happy for me? Why can't you say good job? Or why can't you say that's interesting? Or any sort of supportive thing. No, it was all that stupid. You're wasting your time. All right. So I just don't talk to him about it. A lot of times when we have conversations, they're challenging because I use words at a different level than he does. It is challenging. So I find that a lot of times I have to dumb myself down, right, to keep him comfortable. You should never, ever have to do that with somebody. Okay? If somebody gets angry with you for being intelligent, you cut that ripcord immediately and walk away. All right? Promise me you'll do that. Don't ever dumb yourself down to win the approval of a guy. That's a big no-no. So there was that. But the devaluing was constant and persistent with everything I do. We both bought new cars earlier this year. I think in February, January, something like that. And I bought my car and I told him about it and showed him pictures and all this stuff. And he was like, ugh, that's dumb. No, 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 no. I got a new car too. I'm like, well, what'd you get? I got a Hyundai. I'm like, that's nice. That's fine. But and I didn't realize, I was like, what are you talking about? Why are you having to make it like your car's so much better than my car? Why is it even a competition? What is going on? And I'm starting to put all these pieces together. Okay. For 13 years around this man, I have always felt that I was never good enough for him. And that came to a head one year when I had plane tickets to go see him. And when I showed him a picture after spending an entire year losing 200 pounds by killing myself in the gym, he said I wasn't skinny enough for him yet. So I should give my plane tickets to a friend of ours, and that friend could go visit him instead. I wasn't good enough for him. I wasn't. I spent, $20,000 and 5 days a week in the gym and starved myself and worked out till I was passing out on the floor. And I did it. I lost all the weight and I was looking pretty freaking good. Let me tell you, I was bench pressing 110 and I was having a great time. I actually was quite pleased with myself, but it wasn't good enough for him. I didn't look like a Barbie doll, so he didn't want me. So despite the fact that I had done all that for him and even bought plane tickets to go see him, he told me to just give him to our friend Wally. Wally, go see him instead. And to think that I ever even talked to him again after that point is a miracle of my own stupidity, to be honest. But it's always been that kind of devaluing. So I spent all these years thinking, I'm never good enough for him. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not whatever enough to be good enough for him. And that's why he always makes me feel bad. Until I realize what's really happening. It's not that I'm not good enough for him at all. I am so far out of his league that I can't even calculate it in astronomical units. And the funny part is he wouldn't even understand what that meant. So it's quite the other way around. I think he realizes that I am that far out of his league. The only way to bring me down to his level is to cut me down at every chance he gets. Like Jess Nelson said, they will cut you off at the knees to bring you down to their level. So me studying astrophysics was stupid because that made him look stupid, right? Me having a better car. He had to tell me all these terrible things about my car, and it was horrible and da-da-da. And he has this beautiful Mercedes, he has a Hyundai. I have the Mercedes. And it's just like every single thing that I do is bad, is dumb, is stupid, is silly, is wasteful. And if only I could be smart like him. And I tell you, I could show you the wall of text he sent me yesterday, and there's not a single word spelled correctly in that entire word salad jumble. But it's just that realization that I have been being devalued for 13 years when I didn't even see it. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So we need to talk about devaluing a lot. We need to recognize it the second it starts, and you need to stop it because it's not okay. Because I've wasted 13 years thinking I wasn't worthy. 13 years thinking I was too overweight to be worthy to somebody. That's not okay. And I'm very dumb for letting somebody do that to me. All right? But it's never happening again. It is not happening again. And please don't let it happen to you. Okay? Because anyone who would say you're not pretty enough for me is not someone you ever want in your life in any way, shape, or form. Do not do it. All right? Even the other day, I made a video for him because I can't talk to him because he never shuts up long enough for me to get a sentence out. So I made my statement in a video form, a private video, and I sent it to him. Of course, I had my hair and makeup done all beautiful. I was, spot on. And does he say, wow, you look pretty today? No. He said, oh, there's a hot spot on your camera. And I can see a mark on your forehead. Oh, it was so distracting. I stared at it the whole time. I can't say that word on YouTube. I almost said it. You know what I'm thinking. It was just like, you don't have any redeeming qualities, sweetheart. I'm sorry, I gotta go. So this is a big deal. It's a very personal story and probably one I shouldn't be telling in public, but it's going to help other people who are going through it. If you're friends with someone, even just friends, and they make you feel bad, walk the hell away. Do it. I know it's hard Believe me, I've been crying for a week. I know it's hard, but do it. Do it. Because you know what, honey, you are worth so much more than they could ever even conceive of. You are. And so am I. So am I. I'm a Mercedes driving astrophysicist who has a YouTube true crime channel. So there. I don't know. But talk yourself up. Do that. All right. Talk yourself up. If they're going to tear you down, you turn around and talk yourself right back up. You don't let somebody tear you down and devalue you like that. All right. So devaluing is probably one of the most destructive aspects of a narcissistic relationship because it sticks with you over time. You feel it. You always start questioning, am I pretty enough to do a video on YouTube? I don't think so. You know, when I first started my YouTube channel, I hid it from him for a very long time. I wouldn't let him see it. I didn't tell him about it. I didn't say a darn word about it. Now here I am. I'm building an entire YouTube channel, and I don't even tell my allegedly best friend about it because I'm afraid he'll see me working out and mindful and fit and make fun of me. And I don't want him to see me looking like that because then he won't talk to me at all because then I'll be way too overweight to be his friend. That's not okay. Those thought patterns are not okay. All right. So let's recognize it when it happens and let's stop it from happening. And the only way to stop it is to go no contact, rip off that Band-Aid and walk away. All right. Come hang out with me. We'll have way more fun. I promise. So tell me your experiences of devaluing. Leave it in the comments below. We're going to have to talk about how to get over this. Okay. Because it does eat away at you and it stays with you for a really long time. All right. I will never forget how I felt that day he told me not to get on that plane to go see him. I'll never forget that. And it cuts like a knife every time I think about it. So you have to get over that. All right. You can't let those devaluing moments undermine your confidence for the rest of your life. You can't do it. So we're going to talk about that in the next video, which probably won't be today because I'd like to maybe go have some breakfast or something, but I have a lot to say. So recognize the devaluing. This is your next step. Recognize that you have been devalued. Try to find examples of it so you can see what it looks like in your own life. And how is it affecting you to this day? Right? What parts of you or your life do you feel so devalued in by your toxic partner that you're struggling to regain your confidence in? And let's do that together. Okay? Because we're strong, we're beautiful, and we are going to roar. And these toxic guys can just go take a flying leap. Right? I got you. We're in this together. So yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, hear me roar. I've had this big revelation. I feel so much better now. Once all the pieces came together through helps with my friends like Jess and Rosie, spent a lot of time talking to them, and everything just fell into place. And when I realized what was actually happening, I'm like, oh, well, that's easy to get over. Bye. That's it. It's done. It's done. So I hope you can get to this place too. Reach out if you need help. I'll help you. We'll talk it through. So I will talk to you soon. More Toxic Bliss is coming up soon. I have the actual story to go. I have to do a lot of audio editing, which I hate doing more than anything. If any of you are bored and feel like editing audio for me, just wave. Yeah, it's terrible. But once I get that done, we'll finish up the story and get more back to videos like this. I want to do live streams and conversations where we can talk back and forth about things like devaluing and going no contact. So that's all I have for today. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care out there and have a wonderful New Year's if I don't see you before then. Bye.